Okay, in this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about this scenario. It may be pretty similar to something that you've seen in the past year or so. This particular person has worked at a minimum wage job, and in the state of Ohio, minimum wage is now going to be $8.55 an hour. So while working at a minimum wage job, doing so 20 hours a week, so that's a part-time job, and only doing so for 25 weeks a year, that's about half of the year, you might earn $4,250. I'm sorry, $4,275 at this job. Now, your rate of pay, the number of hours you work, and how many weeks a year that you work is irrelevant. What we're worried about is how much money did you make within 1 year's time. And so this person's made $4,275. After looking at a W-2 that was given to this person, we can tell that they paid $390.31. Again, that was reported to them on a W-2. So essentially, with those two pieces of information, we could complete a 1040EZ form and file our own taxes. Now, in these three scenarios that we're going to cover today, in each case, you are living at home with mom and dad, aunt and uncle, grandma, grandpa. Somebody else is your financial caretaker. You are not independent. And so that's going to affect how these tax forms are completed today. Let's just go ahead and finish this first one. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video right now and fill in the top of your 1040EZ form. You can use your name or you can make up something fictitious. Just keep it school appropriate. Okay, so there's my name and address. Social Security is filled in. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about yet is this presidential election campaign. This is optional. If you'd like to send $3 to go to this particular fund, then you can check the box. What's interesting about this is that it will not change your tax refund. And while it's called the presidential election campaign option, there are other items associated with this. The $3 doesn't just go to presidential election funds. So read into that if that's something that you're curious about. For me, I usually leave that unchecked. Now for wages, salaries, and tips, we only had one job, and I forget already how much that income was, $42.75 for the year. So we'll fill that in, $42.75.00. Remember, dollars on the left, cents on the right. There was no mention of taxable interest. No money was made with investments at the bank. No money was made while being unemployed or living in the state of Alaska. And if we add lines 1, 2, and 3, that's $42.75 as well. Now here's where it gets a little bit different from before. If we reread line number 5, it says that if someone can claim you as a dependent, we're not married, so we're going to ignore this for a second. If somebody can claim you as a dependent, then check the applicable boxes below and enter the amount from the worksheet on the back. Well, again, in this scenario, we are saying that somebody else can claim us as a dependent. When you're living at mom and dad's house, they are going to file their taxes and claim you as a dependent. And because of that, to avoid any mix-ups, we're going to check this box so that the government realizes that, yes, somebody else will claim me, and more specifically, my Social Security number, as a dependent. Now, part of the instructions did say to enter the amount from the worksheet on the back. We haven't had to use a worksheet yet, so let's flip to page 2. If this was printed out, this would be on the back side. So here we go. Here's the instructions for worksheet line 5. Now again, we were just here on line 5, and so we have some questions on it. We either go look at the instructions, or in this case, we're just going to use the worksheet on the back to give us some more information. All right. Now, reading through this, the instructions say enter the amount, if any, from line 1 on the front. Well, on line 1, we had our income, $42.75. And then the instructions say to go ahead and add 350 to that. 42.75 plus 350, 46.25. 46.25. The standard deduction for us has been applied already, $1,050. And step C says to enter the larger of line A or B. Well, A is bigger, so we'll go ahead and write that number down, 4625. Now the maximum standard deduction, if you're single, we would enter the number 6,350. If we were married and filing our taxes together, we would label this as 12,700. Well, in this scenario, we are single, so 6,350 is the number we'll enter here. And then the instructions go on to say to enter the smaller of line C or D. Well, between C and D, this one is still smaller, so 4625 gets re-entered. And now for exemptions. If we are single, we'll enter the number 0. Well, that applies to us, so we'll go ahead and do that. If you're married, there are some other rules to follow, but we are single, so we're going to enter the number 0. And again, the instruction said to add lines E and F together. So when E and F add together, we're back at the 4625 number again. And this is going to be the number that we enter on line 5 on the front of our worksheet. So for line 5, if we were living on our own, we would take a standard deduction of 10,400 if we were single. But according to the worksheet on the back, and because we're not living on our own, we have to use the number 4625. Well, let's see how that affects line number 6. Okay, so line 6 said to subtract 5 from 4 if line 5 is larger. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. Subtract 5 from 4, but if line 5 is larger than 4, we're going to enter the number 0. And that's what happens here. Line 5 is bigger than line 4, so no math necessary. We are entering the number 0. Effectively, we're indicating that our income, as far as the government is concerned, is $0. So for many of you that think that you're entitled to all of your money back if you're living at home and you're under the age of 18, well, a lot of times that's absolutely true because your income is just too small. Even though $4,000 is a pretty good income for the year, it's just too small for the government to be worried about. So let's keep reading here. Let's see what happens next. The federal income tax that was withheld, well, that, according to the given information, was $390.31. And I'm not going to bother with the earned income credit. I've already paid some taxes, and it looks like I'm going to get all of my refund back. So I'm not going to try to maximize that. I'll just take what's given. Plus, I just don't feel like doing the math from the instructions on the other worksheet. I'm not entitled to combat pay because I was not a member of the military, and the math here just says to add lines 7 and 8A. That's easy enough. Finally, the tax. Use the amount on line 6. Line 6, if I can scroll here. Line 6, use this number here and the tax instructions to find out how much tax that you owe. And I really can't stress this enough. This line, when asked to identify our tax, this is where a lot of students mess up. Remember, we're going to look up our income, our earned income, our taxable income, I should say. We're going to look this number up in a tax table, and the tax table is going to tell us how much money we owe in taxes. Well, we can find that tax table by going to the instruction booklet. Here's a copy of the instruction booklet. I made this available last week, but it's also active as a link in today's assignments as well. Now, if at any point in this worksheet or this form, if I'm confused or lost by something, I could find information or further instructions about those lines in this instruction booklet. For example, that earned income credit. If you wanted to read more about it and see if it applied to you, well, the earned income credit was in line 8 of the form, so I'm just going to go to line 8 here and I could read through the definitions here. There's also a checklist to see if you qualify. So if that's something that you think you'd like to apply or practice, then by all means, go for it. Now I'm going to keep scrolling here to find the tax tables. This set of tables that we just passed was for the earned income credit, so that does not apply to us. The tables that I'm after are at the very end, so I'm just going to jump ahead instead of scrolling through. Here we are. So in 2017, if my income was between $0 and $5, and I'm a single person, then surprise, surprise, I owe $0 for tax. I don't know if you all can read that. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Line 6 was $0 on the form. So according to this instruction booklet, if I earned between $0 and $5, then my tax is $0. So I kind of thought that's what it would be, but it's still a good idea to go to the booklet and check. We'll go ahead and assume that my employer did pay for healthcare coverage. It's a little bit different with a part-time worker, whether that's necessary for you. But for simplicity's sake, we'll go ahead and say yes, that it was offered if we were required to receive it. That way we don't have any further tax implications. So at this point, if we add lines 10 and 11, well, that's still $0. That's how much tax that we owe the government. Well, this is a good sign for us because we actually paid or had almost $400 withheld, and now all the math says that we really don't owe any of it, so I think we get a refund. If line 9 is larger than 12, which is the case here, line 9 is larger than line 12, then we should subtract 12 from 9. This is our refund. Well, that math is easy, $390.31. And in order to get that money sent back to me, if you were doing this paper and pencil, they'd ask for your address and they can mail you a check. I'm going to go ahead and provide a routing number and a account number, so that they can just directly deposit this. And by using direct deposit, that's the fastest way to receive your tax return. We don't need to fill out anything in line 14 because this did not apply to us. Line 12 was not larger than line 9. So out of habit, I'll just write the number 00 here. I don't owe any additional taxes. I filled out this form by myself, so I'm not going to allow a third party to sign it, but I'll go ahead and do so. There's my signature, today's date, and my occupation. Now, usually teachers don't get paid minimum wage working part-time, but that's what I am, so that's what I'll put here. Daytime phone number. And this is good to go. Instructions that are provided to you in the instruction booklet or on the IRS's website would help you understand how to go ahead and file this and send it to the IRS correctly. So you'd want to make sure that you follow those. If we've got time this week or next, we'll take a look at some of that information, how we can properly file this without using TurboTax. Thanks.